The most powerful drug family in the world isn't behind bars. They are not hiding or running scared. They are feared, and they are running El Chapo's Sinaloa. In the mountains of Mexico, El Chapo's sons command thousands of armed men across terrain so brutal that military helicopters can barely track them. Billions of dollars in drugs cross into the United States every single year. An empire built on blood and violence is operating at full force, generating more money than most countries will ever see. Their father, Joaquin Guzman Loera, is locked away forever inside ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. No windows, no contact, no way out. The US government spent decades hunting him down and told the world that putting El Chapo in a box was the end of something big. But it was not. His family took everything he built, tore it apart, and rebuilt it into something even more dangerous. They pivoted the cartel into a business that kills tens of thousands of Americans every single year. They fought wars that turned entire cities into battlegrounds. They survived kidnappings, extraditions, and internal betrayals that would have destroyed any other criminal organization. And then they did something so calculated, so cold, and so ruthless that it sent shockwaves through every cartel in Mexico. A move that nobody in the criminal world saw coming. A betrayal so deep, it changed the balance of power overnight. This is the story of what El Chapo's family did after his cell door closed, what they built, broke, and destroyed to stay on top, and why the name Guzman still makes people in Sinaloa lower their voice instantly. El Chapo went to prison, his sons went to work, and they did not waste a single day. Joaquin had children from multiple women, but the ones who would inherit Sinaloa came from two. Maria Alejandrina Salazar Hernandez gave him Ivan Archivaldo and Jesus Alfredo. Griselda Lopez Perez gave him Joaquin and Ovidio. 4 sons, 4 futures inside the most powerful criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. They did not inherit the cartel the way you inherit a house or a business. They had to earn it. Ivan Archivaldo was barely in his 20s when El Chapo was first arrested in 2001. He sat in that courtroom gallery and watched federal prosecutors lay out everything his father had built. He did not break down. He did not run. He went back to Sinaloa and went to work. Within months, he was commanding armed men and controlling key trafficking routes. His brother Jesus Alfredo followed the same path. Together, they became Los Chapitos, the young princes. They operated nothing like their father. El Chapo was patient, calculated, a ghost who stayed in the shadows and let his reputation do the work. Los Chapitos were loud, aggressive, and completely ruthless when challenged. They threw parties, they posted on social media, they moved through Sinaloa as they owned it, because they did. By the time El Chapo was extradited to the United States in January 2017 and put on trial in New York, all 4 sons were already embedded deep inside the cartel structure. The throne never got cold. But holding the throne and keeping it are 2 very different things. And what Los Chapitos did next to protect their position is the part of this story that most people have never fully heard. Here is what most people miss about Los Chapitos. They were not just trying to maintain what their father built. They were trying to surpass it. And to do that, they needed a new product. El Chapo built his empire on cocaine and marijuana. Profitable, proven, and deeply connected to supply chains that had existed for decades. But his sons looked at the American market in the early 2010s and saw something their father had never fully chased. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that requires no poppy fields, no harvests, no seasons, just chemical precursors flowing in from China, hidden labs scattered across Sinaloa, and a distribution network that already existed. The Drug Enforcement Administration would later conclude that Los Chapitos were the primary architects of the Sinaloa cartel's shift into fentanyl production. Tens of thousands of Americans were dying every year, and a significant portion of that supply traced directly back to the Guzman sons. That decision made them one of the most dangerous criminal enterprises in American history. The United States government responded by putting multi-million-dollar bounties on their heads. It did not slow them down. And then came October 2019. The moment that showed the entire world exactly how much power Los Chapitos had accumulated. Mexican security forces arrested Ovidio Guzman Lopez in Culiacan. They had him in custody. They thought it was over. Within hours, hundreds of cartel gunmen mobilized across the city. They did not just engage the military, they laid siege to Culiacan itself. Burned vehicles blocked every major road. 50 caliber machine guns opened up on military convoys. Soldiers had their families threatened in their own homes. The Mexican government, facing a complete collapse of order, made a decision that stunned the world. They released Ovidio, a government backed down to a cartel, to El Chapo's sons. But the real shock was still coming, because winning that battle would eventually cost the Guzman family something nobody saw coming. Every empire has a breaking point. For the Guzman family, it did not come from the outside, it came from within. For decades, El Chapo shared power with one man, Ismael Zambada Garcia, known as Mayo. He was the co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, a man so careful, so deeply embedded in the organization, that he outlasted every kingpin, every rival, and every government operation designed to bring him down. While El Chapo made headlines, Mayo stayed invisible. While El Chapo escaped from prisons and threw parties in restaurants, Mayo operated from the shadows and never got caught. The two men built Sinaloa together, and that partnership held the entire organization in balance. Los Chapitos destroyed that balance. By 2023, the tension between the Chapitos faction and the Mayo faction had become impossible to ignore. There were territorial disputes. There were accusations that the fentanyl operation was drawing too much heat from U.S. authorities. There were whispers that the sons were too reckless, too aggressive, too willing to start wars that cost the entire organization money and lives. Then in January 2023, Ovidio Guzman Lopez was recaptured in a massive military operation and quickly extradited to the United States. One of the four sons was gone. Rumors began circulating that not everyone inside the cartel had done everything possible to prevent it. The fracture was widening. Then came July 2024. Joaquin Guzman Lopez, El Chapo's son, allegedly lured Mayo Zambada onto a private plane under false pretenses. When that plane landed in New Mexico, U.S. federal agents were waiting. Mayo Zambada, a man who had never once been arrested in his entire life, was in custody. The finger pointed straight at Joaquin. The old guard inside Sinaloa exploded. What happened next turned the most powerful drug cartel in the world against itself. So where does that leave Sinaloa right now? The answer is brutal, and it is not over. Mayo Zambada is in U.S. custody, facing charges that could put him away for the rest of his life. And he is furious. His faction inside Sinaloa did not accept what happened quietly. They declared war. The cartel that El Chapo and Mayo built together over 30 years is now tearing itself apart from the inside. Culiacan has seen levels of violence not witnessed since the worst years of the drug war. Entire neighborhoods become battlegrounds overnight. Roadblocks, ambushes, bodies left in the street as messages. The same organization that once enforced an almost military discipline over its territories is fracturing along bloodlines and loyalties that go back decades. And at the center of all of it, still free, still moving, still hunted by every major law enforcement agency on the planet, is Ivan Archivaldo Guzman Salazar, El Chapo's oldest son. He has survived kidnapping by CJNG. He has survived the arrests of his brothers. He has survived the internal war that is tearing his father's organization apart. And he is still out there somewhere in those mountains, protected by a network that decades of cartel money and loyalty have made nearly impossible to break. El Chapo sits in a concrete cell and will never see daylight again. His sons burned the alliances he built, turned his operation into a fentanyl machine, and then handed one of his oldest partners to the United States government. The dynasty is bloodier and more fractured than it has ever been, but it is still standing. The Guzman name still means something in Sinaloa. It means power, it means fear, and in that part of the world, fear is the only currency that never runs out.